I'm playing the audio live, so be ready for me to come in. This episode of Merely a Setback is brought to you by the Magister's Terrace Restaurant. The Magister's Terrace Restaurant, now featuring kale thaw salad.
It's time to get your battle text scrolling and that trade chat trolling, and buckle up for the podcast about storytelling in the world of Warcraft. This is Merely a Setback.
Greetings, fellow lore walkers, and welcome to Merely a Setback, a podcast about storytelling in the world of Warcraft. My name is Sharku. I'm coming to you from my podcasting perch high in the mountains of North Carolina, and I am a player on the Convert to Raid Battle.net News, a raid leader for the Asparagus Initiative, a member of the CTR community, and just a huge Blizzard dork. And with me, as always, are my fellow lore masters and geniuses. Firstly, coming from the beautiful Great White North of Ontario, Canada, where everyone is happy because they all have free healthcare and maple syrup. It's Shoe Boots. Hey, Shoe. Hey, hi, Shoe. Words are things.
Hey, Shark. We're not.
I'm just saying,
we're
if
not
I had
happy, we're passive aggressive.
Okay. I would be very happy with free healthcare and unlimited maple syrup. That sounds like, pretty sure that's what heaven's like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't want to take a political stance in this show. That's not that's not wise podcasting, but it's obviously better. So
forget politics. Yeah, it's obviously better. I just don't want to have to pay for the doctor when I clog my arteries on all the maple syrup. That's
right. Yeah. You can't have one. They have a symbiotic relationship.
Oh, right. Well, let's go ahead and go straight to our next lore person, glorious from Austin, Texas. It's Jared. Jared, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really well, actually. The weather isn't, but I'm doing good.
It's a lot of fun. P.S. I've noticed how we always talk about the weather when introductions, and it's so like, it's so like small talky. It's blowing my mind. Like it's just like
it's getting.
Hey, is it still, like last week? I was like, is it still cold in Canada, where Canada is for the coldest northern white, great snowy cold Canada?
At least we're playing to the cliche with Canada, but
that's true.
I'd love to hear Jared tell me about how terrible his weather in Texas is.
But by the way, well, first, because I don't want to get straight to that, because who cares about the weather in Texas? Texas it runs its own weather, right? It's its own country.
We do have our own climate.
Your own climate, yeah. It's the desert, sort of, except for I remember driving back from to the East Coast from LA one time, and like it was nice and hot and driving through, and then we hit Texas and it was snowing, and I was like, what is? I mean, it was the northern part of Texas, but it was just like, why? You know, it was 70 degrees 20 minutes ago, and I cross into Texas and there's snow on the ground. And
why is everyone saying y'all?
Shoe boots, I know, right?
Shoe boots.
What are these hats?
I do need to. I feel like on behalf of the rest of the world, I should congratulate the women's hockey team on their silver medal. That's a huge accomplishment. Way to go. Who won gold?
I'm going to murder you.
Who was it?
I'm going to murder you.
Oh, that's right. Look, it was the United States. Women's hockey. Once every 4 years, women's hockey means something. And it really meant something this year. And I'm a very proud American. Go our women's hockey team.
Who's your favorite player on the women's hockey team?
The goalie. She won the game. The goalie that saved the game for us. That her name is the goalie. I know she's 20 years old. Is
that French?
And she's the goalie. And I actually read an article on her. I can't believe I can't remember her name right now. I feel really bad. But they were talking about the whole thing.
I didn't watch the game, but I saw on the internet, I saw a plethora of memes that were produced saying, like, making not jokes, but like commenting on how she can literally block anything. And I had a good chuckle.
Yeah, awesome. It's she probably can. I'm sure she can. But anyway, that's enough about sports games, sports balls, and games like that. We are a show about storytelling in World of Warcraft, and we're going to jump right into it. Every time we do the show, spoiler alert that I want to give to you all. We spoil the show. We spoil the show just by doing it. This is sorry for your ears having to listen to us. No, just kidding. It's going to be great. But we we are going to spoil World of Warcraft. Anytime we get any news feed coming from the betas or alphas or PTRs of the world, we're going to pour over them and find some cool nuggets of info. So if you don't want the game spoiled, you should wait to listen to our show for a little while until it comes live. But
or you could just change as a person
just
so that you do want it to be spoiled.
Just know just know that it happens when it hits the internet.
We're here to grow as human beings.
Not when you play
right?
it through the game. As soon as it hits the internet, that's when it happens. So you should just jump in there. So, so join us and be prepared for us telling you all the things that are going to happen in your video game. But first, we're going to jump straight into some news. We got some news this week in WoW. Some more data mine stuff from the alpha build in Battle for Azeroth expansion. That can't come soon enough. We have some information about the Ulduir, the Ulduir raid. Jared, what do we got from the Ulduir raid?
We got a lot of stuff from the older raid. We got the names of all the bosses. We got some descriptions of all of the bosses except for the first one, which is the only actual Titan that we're going up against in this Titan construct of a raid.
Titan keeper.
So, it's a keeper.
It's not a Titan. It's a Titan keeper. Get it right.
Titan keeper. His name. We have his name. It's Titan Keeper Hezrel.
Yep.
Hezrel. We don't know how it's pronounced, but we know it's typed Hezrel. So you can do with that what you want. But the other bosses, we do have.
Box, so it's going to be pronounced Hezrel easy.
That's right.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
There it is.
Correct.
That was the opener right there.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Ulduir bosses. The first is Hezrel easy. Okay.
We'll use it in 6 months. No one will remember.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the other bosses, we have Red Queen, Fetty Devourer, Titan Discs. I think it's like an
ultimate
full of Titan Roombas.
It's like an ultimate game. You've got to get together with your raid team, and you're playing directly against, because it's all about Alliance and Horde, right? So you're going to get together with your raid team, and you have to beat the other faction in a game of Ultimate.
It's Trial of the Grand Crusader all over again.
Exactly what it is.
And then the last boss is Blood of Gahoon. So do with that what you want.
Well, there's Blood of Gahoon and then Gahoon.
Oh, that's right.
So it's going to be, I don't know if it's, yeah, exactly. And Gahoon is that awesome. We actually got to see pictures of Gahoon at, it might even be pronounced Goon, is what it looks like to me. This ugly goon. But that's the big, ugly bloodworm monster that we got to see at BlizzCon.
Yeah.
Is who that is. And so that's going to be interesting. And there are 2 encounters involving that guy. Blood of Goon and Gahoon himself. So that'll be interesting. So yeah, and lots of cool stuff here. I'm just trying, let me see. What's the most interesting?
There's a few.
Spew corruption. That sounds like a fun ability that's going to kill some people. Inflicts 5,000 plague damage every 2 seconds. Which brings us to the stat squish, by the way, because that's going on and people are going, that's not really lore related, but that's a huge thing on the alpha right now. Everybody's like, yeah, our numbers are super low, like vanilla low.
Yeah, I played got to play the alpha client at BlizzCon. My chaos bolts were hitting for 5,000 to 6,000. That's it.
And I'm
to
seeing
6,000.
people doing like hundreds in damage at this point.
Yeah, like
on
Chaos
the
Bolt's.
alpha. Like they've cut it
Chaos Bolt's
even more.
traditionally one of the heaviest hitting abilities in the game, right? So it's
Right.
like
for like 1,000. Yeah, it's down there. It's down there.
Yeah.
White damage is in like the 30s and 40s.
I think it's great.
So
I can't
There's
wait.
so
honestly.
I mean regarding this this list, I think the three that are important for our purposes is, first of all, Jared mentioned Titan Keeper Hezrel. This is a new Titan Keeper. This is on the Titan Keepers is the junior pantheon, right? This is one of Odin's pals or one of Freya's pals or Mimiron's pal. Like he's on the top echelon of Titan constructs, and we've never heard about him before.
the
So
keepers were the beings that the Titans created because they could not interact with Azeroth in fear of damaging her.
yeah,
Right? Because they first tried to Amenthul reached down from the celestial body and tried to pull who would that have been? Yogg-Saron? Not Yogg-Saron.
Isharj.
Isarj. And grabbed Isarj from the face of the planet and tried to pull that old god out by the roots, and that's what caused the bleeding of what it ended up becoming the Well of Eternity, right? And it almost killed the planet when he did that, trying to save it. And he's like, we can't do this. We're gonna have to create these super strong beings to be able to guard the planet because we're not able to do it as Titans. We'll harm the planet if we try to interact. So so this is one of those.
Yeah, and here's what's really interesting about Hezrel is how is he going to relate to Odin? Odin's story at the end of Legion was essentially Odin, for the first time in millennia, was free from his prison and decided to go off into the world. And there's a lot about Odin that we don't know, but what we do know is that he's missing an eye because he traded his eye to make a deal with something from the Shadowlands. There is a darker side to Odin that I feel like we're going to explore at some point in this story, and I wonder if this raid is going to start to tell that story.
Here's the thing I know about Titan Keepers. They're all going to be raid bosses. You can't trust a Titan Keeper.
Right.
You can never trust a Titan. And we fought Odin, but it was in like Valor, like, show me what you've got, heroes. And it's,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that Odin.
I still say the Lord of the Ravens will turn the key. I still say that's Odin.
Do you think Odin's the Lord of the Ravens? That's interesting. Yeah, and I remember I think that is plausible. But
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things. The Keepers, even just the fact that because the Keepers have been on Azeroth so long and they never defeated the old gods, like really truly defeated them. Like the heroes of Azeroth had to come on millennia later to try and to even defeat them to the point of just stop them from whatever they're doing. Like we've killed Yogg-Saron, right? But have we? Who knows?
Yeah, and in a way,
their tentacles go so far down. So they've been maybe corrupting these Keepers secretly for years and years.
Yeah, like we know that Yogg-Saron made a power play to corrupt most of them, at least temporarily, in the Ulduar raid. We know that he permanently corrupted Loken. We've had to kill Loken. We don't know what's going on. I mean, the dragon aspects, which were given their power by the Titan Keepers, they corrupted Deathwing. That they corrupted one of the dragon aspects. So who knows what's going on with Hezrel here?
Isara was corrupted by what's his name?
Oh yeah,
Xavius. Just by shooting a dirty beam at her.
And that's old Gotti.
Yeah.
So I'm really
dirty
interested.
beams are definitely old Gotti. Old gods are all about dirty beams.
I really hope that we get a chance to hear a bit of story about Hezrel. I hope it's not just like, well, here's a Titan Keeper and kill him. But it's cool either way. But I just think there's a huge opportunity whenever they decide to enter a new kind of character at this level that we could hopefully use it to learn a lot more about the story. The other one that I'm really interested about is the Titan discs. We've been hearing about Titan discs since vanilla in Alderman. Right, was when we first discovered the discs, and that's when we first learned that the dwarves had descended from stone. The Titans use discs to keep track of everything. They log and record everything, and that's how they study and research and keep a history. So who knows what these discs are going to be? Obviously, it'll be some sort of raid encounter, but what's the information that's stored on these discs? The knowledge of Aldir is presumably on them, and I hope that we get to hear more about that.
Yeah, no. And to answer your question, DK Rise, Ysara doesn't need I mean, I guess maybe as the leader of the Green Dragonflight, but the dragon aspects are no longer a thing, so she doesn't really need to be replaced. For example, Thrall quote unquote replaced Deathwing as the aspect of Earth, but that was only for Cataclysm. Once Deathwing was killed, then the rest of the Pantheon, using the Dragon Soul, not the Pantheon, but the rest of the aspects lost all their powers, so they're no longer dragon aspects. They're just dragons with clout.
Yeah, basically.
So, yeah, I don't know if I have not heard anything about another member of the Green Dragonflight that has come up to, because dragons don't really have a leadership structure anyway. That's something we talked about as far as when we were talking about the Boy King serves at the Master's table, right? People are like, oh, that's, what's his name? Rathion, because he's the Boy King. And they're like, well, dragons don't really have a leadership structure. They're wild creatures that, they kind of stick with their flight and will sort of listen to the aspects, but they're not even really their leaders. It's just more of they're the strongest dragon. It's more of like an alpha beta sort of thing, I guess. So I don't know. Anyway, Kalik did replace Malygos, but that was before Cataclysm.
Yeah, at the end of Dragon Soul, if you watch the cinematic when you defeat Deathwing, well, there's a couple cutscenes throughout that raid, but the final scene, not Ysera, but Alexstrasza basically explains that the time of the dragons is over, and now is the age of mortals.
Yeah, because they lose their immortality, basically.
Yeah, there's a great if you read Tides of War, the Jaina Proudmoore book that takes place between Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria. It opens with early on in the book is a really great scene that's all about Caligos hanging out in the Nexus, where the blue dragons live, and just kind of like it's all about him noticing, wow, like more and more dragons are flying off and never coming back. Like there's like we're done. Like we're a dead flight is basically his sort of observation. So
there's a lot of cool stuff about the Blue Dragonflight as far as being like, that's why Malygos went crazy, was because Deathwing slaughtered when Deathwing, what was that? What was the big battle? The Battle of the Well of Eternity.
Yeah.
Right? Deathwing comes and turns on all of his brothers, and the first that he goes for is the Blue Dragonflight and just kills almost everybody in the Blue Dragonflight, and that's what makes Malygos go crazy.
Yeah.
Right? And we don't confront him over that until Wrath. But anyway, yeah.
But
lots of cool stuff. Yeah, and the discs, yeah. And the cool thing about the discs, I think, as well, is that it's not just... These were like recordings that the Titans themselves kind of set up these recordings, right? And the Keepers were supposed to be in charge of protecting them, but that's one of the reasons why they were able to change the lore in Chronicle, right? Because the idea is that Loken corrupted the original recordings, so that when the Titans came back, 'cause the idea was when the Titans came back, these recordings were going to tell them about what was happening on Azeroth while they were gone. And so Loken changed the recordings so they wouldn't kill him, basically. Mm-hmm. And so I wonder, have these recordings, what's the deal with them? Have these discs been corrupted? Have they been hidden? Are they going to tell us more about the Loa and what their whole story is, their relationship with the Titans and things like that?
There's definitely some sort of Loa connection to the old gods, in my opinion, based on what I've seen.
Loa's connected with the old gods and not the Titans?
I think the blood magic, I think is old god magic. I mean, I'm only speculating. I don't have alpha access. I haven't had a chance to play through, but I've tried to watch as much as I can, and I think there's a connection there. I'm really interested in if we're going to hear from Hakar, the
blood god,
that from back in what's it called, the troll raid from Vanilla,
Zul'Gurub or Zulaman.
Zul'Gurub, and
Okay.
we also, the Sunken Temple was a temple where they worship Hakar as well. So I a lot of people are hoping for it. We'll see if we get it, but I hope the discs are the beginning of us just learning, because like one thing that was really great about Legion, one of the many great things about Legion, was that we got to see the Burning Legion in so many more layers than we'd ever seen it before, right? We got to see power structures, we got to see ships, we got to see just so many things about it. And I think that they can now start filling in those gaps with the old gods, if that's where this story is turning to. And I really hope that Uldir is the beginning of that.
Agreed.
Nice. I like it. I like it a lot. Let's turn to our next item of news, and this is a biggie. Our next allied race has been data mined. Jared, drum roll, please. What is it? Yeah, go ahead and type.
Magar...
I
wasn't actually typing. I was like slapping my desk.
I know.
You should just use your keyboard.
Orcs. It's the Magar orcs.
The Magar orcs from
options data mined for
what
the
are the Magar orcs?
The Magar are the orcs that refused the fel gift in Draenor.
Well, hold the phone though. Yes, but it looks like this race is not coming from that Draenor. It looks like this race is coming from alternate timeline Draenor.
Yep. It's not the real Draenor. It's not the Outland Draenor. The Draenor that was once called Outland, that was once called Draenor, but is now called Outland, right? So this is alternate timeline.
But
Magar.
Jared raises a really interesting point, because the Magar are in our timeline, right? If you go to Outland right now, you can go and visit the Magar orcs. They're there.
Which is Agra is one of the Magar orcs, if I'm not correct, right? So Agra, Thrall's partner, lady friend,
as well as Garrosh Hellscream.
Garrosh Hellscream was a member of the Magar orcs.
Yeah. Sorry, Jared, I interrupted you, but sorry, what were you saying about the orcs there, Jared?
Oh, I finished what I was saying. Okay. I basically just was saying that they were the tribe that rejected the gift of Fel from Kil'jaeden whenever he offered it to them. But yeah, if it's the alternate timeline Magar orcs, that's doubly exciting, because all of the orcs in the alternate timeline rejected the gift of Fel, and
once again, nerd glasses, not necessarily true. Some of the orcs, like for example, Kil'ganon, or no, what was his name? Kil'ganon.
Remember Kil'ganon?
Right, Kil'ganon. Kil'rog, and some of these orcs ultimately did side with Gul'dan, and that was the kind of the theme for that for me. Was now you're right. Most of the orcs, when Grommash decided not to drink the blood,
then
there
were outliers.
Most of the orcs,
in all the tribes.
Most of the orcs went with him, and everyone made their decision, but significantly more orcs in the Draenor, the alternate timeline, decided not to drink the blood, at least initially, and then a few of them changed their mind. For example, the Deadeye clan, and things like that. But yeah, which I thought was an interesting plot line or theme, was that even if you go back in time and try to change history, you're not going to change it.
It still happens.
You know, somebody goes back in time and changes it back, which is what happened with us, right? Gul'dan was captured. It was over. Draenor was saved. The Iron Horde won. And then those meddling kids decided to come through the dark portal and stop the Iron Horde, and the way to do that was to unleash arguably the biggest baddie the World of Warcraft universe has ever seen, as far as mortal races are concerned. So
here's something that's really cool about these character models, though. They're not just brown skin; they also have gray skin and different shades. They're essentially this Magar orc faction allows you, at least from an RP perspective, if that interests you, to be a member of any of the Draenor tribes, right? Like the Laughing Skull don't have brown skin; they have gray skin. And I think there's other exceptions like that. And I've noticed there's different types of body paint that you're allowed to wear, or tattoos. Like I think that the goal here, and I think this is why they named them the Magar, because if I understand correctly, the Magar in Outland are not from any tribe. They're from all tribes. They're the leftovers, right? I think that this group here, the Magar, are not... They're going to be from all tribes. It's not like this is the Draenor Laughing Skull or this is the Frostwolf. Like a lot of people thought it would be the Frostwolf, for example. But this is all orcs, so people can sort of have their own story about the origins of their character, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So another quick thing, and I'm trying to find out where I found this. Hold on, let me see if I can find it.
Holding on.
Holding on. Hey, guys, stand by. Stand by. Here we go.
No dead air?
Where's
No
the
dead
dead
air?
air? What's dead air? You guys here. Talk about something. I'm getting to... Okay, here it is. So there has been rumors around the internet. Yes. About...
On the internet?
On the internet. Rumors on the internet. It's a new segment we like to call Rumors on the Internet. What? Rumor on the internet that... And we talked about it a little bit on the show, that because of Sourfang's... Take me to your boy king now. I don't want to go to Sylvanas. I want to go see Anduin. That there was this idea that maybe Sourfang recruits the Draenor Magar orcs for the Alliance. And yes. I believe that has been disproved. It's not going to happen, fellas. It's not going to happen.
It was a pipe dream to begin with.
It was.
I don't think it ever had a chance.
And it shouldn't. And see, there's part of me that would have loved that. I'm not going to lie. Hate me if you want, internet.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a part of me that really would have loved that. And I even said that about something like, and I still feel this way about High Mountain Tauren. I absolutely think the High Mountain Tauren could have joined the Alliance. And I absolutely think the Dark Iron Dwarves could have joined the Horde. Right? I think that would have made sense. And I think it would have been cool to be able to play with something that, not everything, but a model that maybe you've been wanting to play, but you're just Horde for life and you can't imagine going for Alliance, but you've always wanted to play a Dwarf, or vice versa, right? I think,
right.
And it's sort of what they did. And this, I love the idea that they only do it with elves. Like they let the elves switch side, like the two different elf models went to the other side, right?
Right.
But this idea that just elves have no alliances.
Hey, actually...
And even the idea of the night elves being on one side and the blood elves being on the other. Like, they're still all elves. They're all the same race. But they're, But anyway.
I have to give a shout-out to Matthew Rossi.
Yeah.
So on our last episode, we had a long discussion about the elves, and... or maybe it was 2 episodes ago. We recently discussed it, and I think we were all generally of the conclusion that it didn't make a whole lot of sense that Tyrande pushed away the Nightborn. But Matthew Rossi made an extremely compelling argument about why it makes absolute sense, and it's on a recent episode of Blizzard Watch, which is another lore podcast, and he basically made the point that Tyrande fought against the establishment. She fought against the higher tier, the higher caste of elves. She fought the Highborn. And here's the Highborn right in front of her. The very people that she rose up against, the very people that called in the Burning Legion.
Twice now.
Twice now. Exactly. Yeah, twice. From her perspective, how could she ever trust them? And if you don't already listen to this episode, and I'm guessing a lot of you do if you listen to this show, but it's a really great episode. Like, check it out. He makes a really great argument. And the other 2 people on the show don't agree with him. Like they try and knock him down. But I
was going to say, I get where he's coming from, but I still don't give her a pass. I still don't. That's still because Elisande is not Ashara. And who's the new Nightborn leader name? What was her name? Velisra.
Thelisra. Who's
Thelisra?
Great. She's obviously a quality person.
Is not Elisand, who is not Ashara. They're different people. And if she can't see that, she's racist. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not saying she's not racist.
But I know, but yeah, exactly. She's just as elf racist as I am. And that's the thing. Of all the elves, honestly, and I hate to admit this, I find the Nightborn the most intriguing to me. They're the ones that their storyline makes it's really interesting because the night elves are, they're just trolls that got stoned on moonlight. Like that's what they are. That's what they are. They evolved from trolls. They're trolls. And that's what all elves evolved from. But I don't know. For me, something about just the Nightborn and their history and who they are now as a people, and the fact that they had to win a civil war I guess the Night Elves did too, but I don't know. It's just the Nightborn. I mean, the Nightborn helped them fight in that war. She was allied with Elisand in that war. Tyrande was the first one because Elisand broke off of Ashara.
Right, but she then just put up a wall and noped out of the fight, right? Like I don't know that Suramar actually fought against Ashara. I'd have to double check, but I think they just put up their wall and just said, nope, we're done, we're out. Good luck,
they sealed
everybody.
themselves off for hundreds of thousands of years.
10,000 years.
10,000 years. Anyway,
it wasn't hundreds of thousands.
Literally history. Velisra is the new Tyrande, is what it says. Literally repeating itself. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But it is Thelisra. Telisra. Tyrandisra. But anyway.
Thespian.
No, you're out. So I don't know. The more I started explaining it to myself, the more I'm like, it is kind of basically the same thing. But for some reason, I just think maybe it was because I didn't experience all that in the game. Like having to go through all the Suramar quests, I feel like I fought a war.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not in a good way. War of attrition.
I loved that zone.
I hate it.
I don't know what people are talking about when they say they didn't like it. It's fantastic.
I just hate doing
I'm so crushed.
Many quests, and I hate the fact that I hate grinding in the sense of let me rephrase. I hate the fact that I have to put so much time into something and then I have to wait. The gating is what I really hate. I want to be able to just get online and be like, okay, I'm just going to buzz through all these quests. And maybe there's a bajillion things to do and it takes me 100 hours. But I can work at it all in whatever time that I want to. If I want to spend 5 hours on it, I can. But the way they did it, they had to gate it. And then you had to do these many world quests. And world quests only come up so often. It's like, stop it.
Well, this is where it came up short for me.
The only way you could get rep is by doing world. And I just wanted to blow my brains out.
Well, this is where the Suramar quest line came up short for me, is that we've had this in the game before. We had it in the Golden Pagoda in Mists of Pandaria. Well, two of them in Mists of Pandaria. We had the Golden Pagoda and the Isle of Thunder. Both of them were weekly gated events that happened in the game that we had to quest through and unlock and wait a week once we had finished the content. This is the same thing, but it was much more drawn out, and you didn't have the added benefit of playing with other people accomplishing the same goal. It was you accomplishing goals throughout it and not a group of people, or what felt like a group of people accomplishing the same goals. That's where it fell short for me.
Also, when you got to the end of all that stuff, you got a legendary.
Right.
You know what I mean? Back in and in this stupid expansion. Sorry, am I biased? Who knows if you're going to get a legendary? You might just hit level 101, kill your first world boss, or tag a world boss while other people are killing it, and the legendary drops. Stupid. This game is dumb. But anyway,
I got a legendary today.
I'm glad you did. I haven't seen a legendary in weeks, and I've been working on 2 alts.
But with the Awakening Essences, it's guaranteed to get at least one a week if you do all your Awakening Essence stuff.
But then I have to do all my Awakening Essence stuff.
But then you get a legendary.
Just run a dungeon every day, dude.
How bad do you want it, Shark?
I have been. I started doing that, but I only started this week, so I'm pretty close on a couple people. But now I don't know what I want to play anymore, and I've decided I'm not playing Frost Mage anymore. That was a big thing for me.
Really?
Yeah, I took Melon Fire. I re-enchanted all of his gear.
But I heard
Kinda
Frost
sad
is the
about
better
it.
spec.
Frost is better on single target.
It's just.
Oh my goodness.
Some of the time. I just hate everything.
But anyway, the Mega Orc allied race stuff.
Oh, yeah,
was
that.
Dynamite.
So yeah, check it out.
But yeah, Mega Orcs. Also, the Horde's getting another Paladin class, right, Shoe Boots?
No.
No, what?
So, okay, here's the story. So I did not know that this was a thing, but it was a thing, that there is a contingent of people that are speculating / hoping that there will be Zandalari paladins.
It's 3 of them, by the way. There are 3 people. They're all named Ted. They're called the Teds.
The Teds.
The Teds want the Zandalari paladins to happen.
Yeah.
All 3 of them.
So this stems from, apparently there are some NPCs in Throne of Thunder, I think it is, because the Zandalari make up several of the bad guys in Throne of Thunder that are paladins, or at least appear to be. And they're using spells like Light of the Loa, Judgment of the Loa, Seal of the Loa. So a lot of people were speculating, and a lot of people were kind of bummed when they did the original announcement that there was no paladins. And I think this was sort of like a campaign, like, give us paladins. But Blizzard has not weighed in on this, by the way, so it is still possible. However, it looks like some questing and some storyline has been uncovered that basically raises and dismisses the possibility, right? It addresses that there is an order. The prelates of Rezon, highest order of holy warriors to serve any Loa, but they're gone. They're broken. The quote from this is in-game quote: "We are broken. The light of Rezon has left us. Only a handful of those that followed the great king of the Loa will have any sort of power, and even they are suspect. Our life was devotion itself. Now who do we become?" So it looks like
there were Zandalari paladins.
And maybe there will be again someday. But it looks like
it does kind of leave
yet.
the door open, right?
Yeah, it definitely gets.
And there's another voice line here that say, "And no, we do not have any openings or handouts." Right? This idea we're not, because they
open for
they
business
announced
right
themselves.
now.
We are the prelates of of Razan, highest order of holy warriors to serve any Loa. I don't know. It's pretty. It's interesting. Now, from a lore perspective, what do you guys think? Is this the same sort of thing as orcs are orcs and are always going to be horde, right? Obviously, Blizzard did not believe that originally having 2 different classes that were just horde and just alliance, they thought was going to be a great idea in paladins and shamans. But balancing that was impossible, right? Obviously, for obvious reasons, because then when you play Horde, the only healers you had in Vanilla were priests, first, right? Because shaman healing was garbage. Druid healing was meh. And so you had priests.
Pretty much.
And but on the Alliance side, you had priests and pallies who were both really strong. And pallies could do some crazy things. And shamans did some pretty crazy things in PvP as well. But yeah, they decided that wasn't going to work. So obviously, they're of the idea now that all classes should be playable by both factions. So what's wrong with having troll pallies then? What do you think? Should we do it? Should we not?
Go ahead, Shiboots.
I mean, as a general rule, it's fine, right? Like we already have, let's see, we have 3, like most of the paladins in the game are not paladins per se, right? Like the order of paladins is a human creation, an alliance creation, correct? That extends to the dwarves as well. But we also have the vindicators, right? The Draenei holy warriors, which for the sake of gameplay are classified as paladins, but they're really, in game they probably wouldn't identify themselves as paladins. They did identify themselves as vindicators.
And although they share the same traits and abilities that a paladin can do, they get their powers from the light the same way. They use it in the same way. Yeah, they are they came across it in a different way. They're not technically paladins, but
Yeah. And so, and then in Cataclysm, they added the Sunwalkers, which are the Tauren paladins. They also would probably not identify themselves as paladins, but they are holy warriors, right? They are warriors that worship, I believe the Tauren kind of worship the sun as the source of the light. They view the light differently than a blood elf or a human would, but it is the light that they are using for war. So obviously it wouldn't make any sense to make 3 different classes, Sunwalker, Paladin, and Vindicator, that all essentially have the exact same gameplay. So for simplicity's sake, it's Paladins. So on that level, if we're going to say, what do they identify themselves here as? The warriors of the Loa?
The prelates, the prelates. Prelates of resin.
Yeah. So I think
Razan.
It's totally doable, and I think it's cool. I do kind of agree with Blizzard's at least apparent decision to say not now, because I think it almost sort of takes away from the flavor of the Zandalari trolls. I think this is a really cool addition to the game. The Darkspear trolls are one of my favorite horde races. So I think the Zandalari are super cool. And the last thing I want to see is a bunch of them running around in, tier 2 judgment gear through, just when.
I don't know.
Give it to him later.
Yeah,
give it to him later. After they're done being the big shiny new thing. That's my take.
Jared. What do you think, Jared?
My take on it is, first off, I'm still salty from Cataclysm when they gave the hunter class to humans. So
humans have always been hunters, haven't they?
No, they haven't. They didn't have it until Cataclysm.
Oh, okay.
And I'm still salty about it.
Why?
Are you saying that for another time?
Are you saying that humans can't be hunters? Because that's silliness.
But it was
silliness, Jared. It makes more sense for a human to be a hunter than a mage, because magic isn't real. There are real hunters in the world.
I guess
you're a crazy person.
Regardless,
keep going.
Regardless,
one person thinks human hunters are a bad idea. It's Jared. Keep going.
Anyways, my problem with the Zandalari Paladins is that if you look at the other races that can be Paladin, they all have a tie to the light through some unkillable, untouchable thing, whether it's the sun or the light. All of them get some ephemeral source. The Zandalari Paladins, their prelates as they're called in game, don't. They get their power from Loas, which can be killed, and their Loa that gives them the power for their paladin stuff, or paladin-esque stuff, we should say. It dies. We see it die. That happens. It's not 100% confirmed, but the result of the broadcast text that was read by Shoeboots earlier, the reason that stuff is said is because Rezan is killed.
It almost sounds like they're going to need an ally like the Horde that have paladins like the Blood Elves and Sunwalkers like the Tauren to show them other ways to find the light again.
Which is possible, but not for a race just joining the Horde. It's going to take time, which is why I think that down the road, yes, it's possible, but not right now.
I think if cow people figured it out, that the trolls will be able to figure it out pretty quick. That's how I feel about it. I think it could be awesome. I'll say it this way. I don't know how likely it is, but I would not be surprised if Zandalari comes out and they're releasing what classes you can play in the Zandalari class, and a paladin's a choice. Wouldn't be surprised.
Well, they've already given the list, right?
Oh, they already given the list for
yeah, they have.
The
Paladin
new
is not on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, if Paladin's not on the list, it's not going to be on the list anytime soon.
I think this was
I do hope that they open it up a little bit at some point.
I think there's a little bit of a campaign here on behalf of the people that want it to happen to try and convince Blizzard to say yes.
If gnomes can be hunters.
Of course they can be hunters. Why can't gnomes be paladins? That's the real question.
Because they're tiny and puntable.
They
Gnomes
can be
shouldn't
warriors.
Be anything. I know.
be
That's
warriors.
my
They
favorite
can be
thing.
priests.
When Classic comes out, I'm rolling a gnome warrior for real. Named Mr. Big.
Mr. Big.
It's going to be his name. But anyway, all right. That's enough of the news. Enough of the news.
Enough of the news.
There's no more news. Everything else is olds. You've heard it here first, folks. You probably haven't heard it here first. All of you have been on Wowhead. Half of you in the chat room are correcting us as we go, or trying to. So here we go. We have a new spotlight that we're doing, and we're actually doing a new thing. Behold unto thee, I am doing a new thing. We are going to start this week with a bit of a series, and our next series is going to be entitled The War Chiefs. Or wait, what is this that...
War Chiefs of
Jared...
the Horde, or Forging Your Own Fate.
Okay, yeah, Jared wrote stupid thing. War Chiefs.
Merely a war chief.
War Chiefs is the theme. Over the next couple episodes, we're going to focus on War Chiefs. And today, a new old thing. It is an old new thing. And we are going to focus on the old today. We're going to talk a little bit about all of our War Chiefs of hordes past, right? Our the history of the Horde War Chiefs and what it meant to be War Chief and what the Horde was when it started forming and things like that. So why don't we go ahead? We haven't really split these things up, but since Shoe Boots is kind of our lore expert, I'm going to throw it over to Shoe, and he's going to introduce these things, and then Jared and I are going to randomly interrupt him and keep him from doing his job as we ask stupid questions. So, Shoe Boots, take it away. Where did the Horde come from? Where did the War Chiefs come from? Because what I understand about the Horde, and especially looking at just the orcs, the idea of orcs, they're a tribal race that did not play well, that played about as well as they did with each other as they did with anyone else infringing on their territory.
Yeah, so, the title of War Chief is a relatively new title in the grand scheme of things. The very first War Chief is from the original Warcraft game, Warcraft 1, the First War. Prior to that, Draenor was a pretty peaceful place. These clans existed, and they traded with each other. They had relationships with each other, but they didn't really have a War Chief per se, at least as far as I know. What the big change is that fateful moment when
each clan had its own chieftain, each tribe.
Yes, and we know some of those chieftains, right? We know that
they're the leaders of the Iron Horde.
Yeah, basically,
right?
everyone
Kilrog
on
Deadeye,
the poster for Iron Horde.
Kilrog Deadeye was the leader of the Deadeye clan.
Kargath Bladefist. Blackhand.
And Duratan.
Duratan, obviously.
Leader of the Frostwolves.
Yeah, and there's others. So there's all these clans, and without going too much into the story of the First War, they all got together in a big meeting and decided that they were going to drink the blood of Manaroth and to gain power. And this is when they became corrupted and became essentially tools of the Burning Legion. And it was at this point that the first war chief was chosen. And the idea here was to have a war chief that was representative of all the orcs as one. And the original enemy that they were aligned against was the Draenei. Now, the Draenei had lived peacefully with orcs for hundreds, if not thousands of years on Draenor. But the Burning Legion obviously had it in for the Draenei, and it was, I believe, Kil'jaeden specifically who wanted to make them suffer. So he threw Gul'dan. Gul'dan was essentially pulling all the strings on the ground for Kil'jaeden, who was not on Draenor at the time. Through Gul'dan, they manipulated the orcs to think that the Draenei were the bad guy, and they needed to unite against them and go to war. So that's where the title of War Chief comes from. And we should be specific here. There's kind of two hordes. I mean, there's also other hordes, but for our purposes, there's two hordes. There's the original horde from the First and Second War, which are kind of like the bad guy in a more two-dimensional way than we see the horde today. The new horde, which is founded by Thrall during the events of Warcraft 3, is the horde that sort of reclaims its tribal, at least especially if you're an orc, but reclaims its tribal roots, is no longer controlled by the Burning Legion, and realistically shares the name Horde, but doesn't have a whole lot more than that in common with the original Horde, other than the title of War Chief and the fact that there's orcs in it. So,
and what we're talking about tonight is tonight on Merely a Setback. We're talking about the old Horde.
Horde.
Right. So what you're saying is the Horde was formed. So in a way, I guess maybe interestingly enough, Gul'dan is almost the first war chief, because he's the one that forms the thing.
He was
never elected, or he was never chosen war chief, but he was the orc that was able to make contact with Kil'jaeden.
And he pulled all the strings.
Yeah.
Like he was the puppet master. He was there's I know I'm always talking about the books, but one book that you absolutely have to read. This should be, honestly, maybe the first book you ever pick up if you're thinking of reading a Warcraft novel, is Rise of the Horde. It's by Christy Golden, and it tells the story. It tells the story of how the orcs of Draenor went from being a tribal civilization to the horde that would invade Azeroth. And it tells it largely from the perspective of Orgrim and Duratan. It's a fantastic book, of course, but this what this book spends a lot of time on as well is Gul'dan. And Gul'dan could never have been the war chief. He wasn't a chieftain. He was sick. He was decrepit. Like, he was gangly. He wasn't going. He was never going to be.
What clan is he from? I can't even remember.
Well, they've sort of retconned it that he's from a clan that's forgotten.
Okay. But he was exiled. He was kicked out of his clan because he was weak.
He was of, I believe, the Shadow Moon
clan.
The same clan that Ner'zhul's from. Okay. Because he was originally Ner'zhul's apprentice. The Burning Legion originally reached out to Ner'zhul, and when Ner'zhul didn't have the guts to actually go through and do what Kil'jaeden wanted, Gul'dan was privy to this, and he kind of stepped in and said, "I'll do it." And that's how he sort of usurped Ner'zhul and became such a big deal.
Which is interesting to me from a character standpoint, because I love characters and I love villains. They're my favorite kinds of characters. I don't know why. Maybe I'm a bad, evil person. But the thing that I love about, because every villain, the thing is we can connect with villains too. And I think people get scared when they realize that. Like, that, I remember being a kid and being like, but Darth Vader just doesn't want war, so he's going to stop it by killing everyone that wants to fight him. Right? Or whatever. Like, it made sense to me for a second, and I'm like, oh, ooh, that's kind of scary. Right? But
my emotions.
No, my emotions. But yeah, it's one of those things where Gul'dan was terribly mistreated as a young orc growing up. He was crippled. He was weak. He couldn't do anything about that. And he was kicked out of his clan and made an apprentice to Ner'zhul because he could still use, he had some strength in magics, which is what Ner'zhul was all about, was the magics. Mm-hmm. And especially dealing with dabbling in the dark magics, which is kind of how they were able to contact the Burning Legion, because the Burning Legion, we find out, could track people based on magic. They could sense magic. And that's what he was trying to do, was going to, because magic comes from powerful sources, right? And, Sargeras is trying to wipe out all of the powerful, all of everything. It's starting with the most powerful stuff. So it's easy. The rest of it's just going to be, downhill from there. And so because of that, when the Burning Legion promises power, that's the one thing Gul'dan has wanted his entire life, to stick it to these people. And I think, isn't the idea that, and I don't know if this is 100% correct, I feel like there was a video or something on this back in Draenor,
Yeah.
where when Gul'dan comes into power with when he's given the power of the Legion and made the first warlock and given this unlimited Legion Sargeras power, he goes back to his old clan and slaughters them all. Right? Isn't that something that that happened? I feel like I saw that happen.
Yeah.
But it's like he just shows up, he's all decrepit, you were never supposed to come back here. And he's like, yeah, I know. And then he throws his cane away and takes off he's all ripped and crazy big and just like fell fire everywhere and slaughters everyone. He's like, I'll show you who's weak.
Yeah.
You're all weak for not taking this gift, you know. It was really interesting.
Last week. So what you're thinking of is the animated series that was the Iron Horde is coming, that hyped Warlords of Draenor, where they did sort of a 5-minute animation on several of the warlords. Mm-hmm. So the thing about Gul'dan that makes his story, some people are upset about this. I think it's great. So Rise of the Horde tells one story about Gul'dan's origin, and then Warlords of Draenor tells a different story about his origin. And there was a lot of people wondering, is this a retcon, or does maybe alternate timeline Gul'dan have a different origin story than our timeline Gul'dan? Yeah. And it was clarified in Warcraft Chronicle Volume 2 that they're actually both true. The two stories, while they don't mention each other, they don't directly contradict each other. So Chronicle Volume 2 actually sort of filled in the gaps and smoothed out the edges. So essentially Gul'dan was kicked out of this lost tribe, and he went and went and joined Ner'zhul's clan. Shadow Moon. Yes, thank you. And or maybe I said that earlier. Anyway, yeah,
that's how I knew what it was.
So then he gains his power, and one thing that we should probably discuss is, prior to the Burning Legion, orcs only know one kind of magic. They know shamanism. Mm-hmm. They use elemental magic because Draenor is ripe with elemental power, and they don't know any other form of magic at all. In fact, all the warlocks of the original Horde are former orc shamans. All the shamans stopped practicing shamanism and turned to the Fel and became warlocks. And that's the first warlock class, I guess you could say, in the history of Warcraft. Obviously, Fel existed before that, but those are the first warlocks. And that's Gul'dan's in, because he's extremely adept at being a damn good warlock. And under the guise of a shaman apprentice, he rises all the way up, and he doesn't become war chief, but he controls the war chief. Yeah. And he instills the first war chief, which was Blackhand, which I think is he Laughing Skull? I'm gonna have to look this up. Blackhand is chosen to be the first war chief because he's considered, for two reasons. He's considered by many to be one of the strongest orcs around. Which is important because of Mak'gora, the rule within the Horde that still exists today, where you can challenge the war chief for their job by fighting essentially to the death. So you need a strong leader that won't be losing that fight. Blackrock, thank you.
The Blackrock,
obviously.
Fan. Yep, I just looked
Blackrock
it up too.
Foundry.
DK Rise wins though.
Yeah, DK Rise has it. So that was one reason he was chosen, and the second reason, and more important to Gul'dan, is he was an idiot. He was very manipulable. He was easy to manipulate. Let's just say that. And so Gul'dan was able to convince Blackhand to let him do all these things in the background and take his advice. So he essentially pulled the strings to make sure Blackhand got the job, and then Blackhand in return allowed him to establish what was called the Shadow Council, which was sort of a secret society that was communing with their new demonic overlords. And this was Gul'dan's way to basically allow himself to be up to no good with the blessing of the war chief and call the shots. And that's the politics of the original Horde. You've got Blackhand as the war chief. You've got Gul'dan in the shadows telling Blackhand what to do. And you've got the vast majority of the orcs following him, right? There are some standouts. But in general, even Durotan and the Frost Wolves, they choose not to drink the blood of Manaroth, but they do join the Horde, right? They do invade Azeroth with the Horde. They just don't have the Fel.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. One of my favorite things about Black Hand is that he named both of his sons Rend and Maim.
Yeah.
Rend Black Hand and Maim Black Hand.
Although I'm not sure what his first name is. I like to think it's like Robert.
How badass is that? Yeah, Steven. My name is Steven Blackhand. So instead of Steven Blackhand Jr.
Hi, guys. I'm Steven Blackhand.
Right. Interesting.
I'm here to rule the Horde.
Interesting. But yeah, so...
and one thing that we can also address is the movie touches on these events as well and tells them differently, right? In the movie, Gul'dan is the war chief and Blackhand sort of is like number one guy. Right hand man. But that's just movies making things simpler because complex stories are too much trouble to tell in a film, I guess.
Hey, right. You got 120 minutes at best. What are you gonna do with them? Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, it's tough because you have to. The other problem with the Warcraft movie, I mean, I liked the Warcraft movie, to be honest. I thought it was, I really enjoyed it. But you have to tell two sides of that story in one movie, which I wish they had been able to get two movies, so they could have done an Alliance movie and a Horde movie, and then had and maybe even a trilogy, and then brought them together at the end. You know what I mean? But there's just way too much story to tell, especially you're trying to talk about Khadgar and Medivh and Anduin Lothar, and come on.
Yeah, most like standalone film is a really difficult way to tell this story because it's just so damn big. But
I mean, a standalone movie for Warcraft, for any part of Warcraft, is nearly impossible just because of how many moving pieces there are at any given moment. Like it's insane.
Yeah, it's tough. I still like the movie though, so get over it. But yeah, so we've got Black Hand. Jared, do you have anything to add about Black Hand or Gul'dan?
Not really.
Good. All right, moving on. No, what were you gonna say?
Something Death Knight.
Death Knight, something Death Knight. We'll
get there eventually.
So at some point, some of the Horde don't like the way Black Hand is leading this new faction known as the Horde, which is basically, and let's keep in mind from the beginning, the Horde, the simplest terms to put is they are a group of tribes coming together to make themselves stronger, right? This idea of Horde is we are taking each other's strengths and building. This idea of a Horde is all just everybody coming together and moving it forward. We have differences, but we are one Horde for the Horde, right? So originally it was just orcs, different orc tribes that were at war with one another, and then were able to come together, kumbaya style, over a glass of demon blood.
Steamy glass of
demon blood. But some of the orcs didn't like the way Black Hand was leading. And what happened, Shoeboots?
Well, so I'm going to talk about it.
This is after the first war, yeah?
This is, I think, during the first war. And I should preface this. I apologize. I was at school today, and I really meant to get my facts straight about the exact order in which these things happen. But I might get it wrong, and I'm sure somebody will point it out if I do. Right. But the following events all happened. I just might not be 100% accurate in the order that they happened. But as I remember, so you've got Orgrim Doomhammer and you've got Durotan. And Durotan's the leader of the Frostwolves. And I believe Doomhammer, he's also of the Blackrock, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be mistaken. I'm sure DK Rise will let us know momentarily. But
I'm looking it up.
Anyways, the point is that Orgrim was, to the best of my knowledge, not a chieftain. But he was Durotan's best friend. They were not both Frostwolves either. That's another thing the movie changes. They were from different clans.
He is also Blackrock. Doomhammer is Blackrock. Yeah, is of the Blackrock clan.
And in their youth, Durotan and Orgrim befriended some Draenei, and they were actually taken into a secret Draenei city, and they spent the night at Velen's house. They met Velen. As youngsters, they met the prophet Velen and got to know the Draenei, and it was a very important moment for them because the Draenei were so mysterious to them. So they had real personal problems with the fact that they were wiping out the Draenei, and it was actually them who knew the secret way into this city, and they had to basically give that knowledge over to the Horde in order to eradicate the Draenei. So they're very conflicted. They're very upset. Durotan, I'm not going to try and retell this story point by point because it deserves more justice than that. But Durotan and his wife on Azeroth give birth to their son Goel, who will go on to become Thrall, and he is a thorn in the side of Gul'dan. This guy Durotan won't drink the blood. He's speaking up against him. He's got his whole clan. It's a problem. And Gul'dan wants him taken care of. So they send assassins to, in fact, kill Durotan. So Durotan is not killed by Gul'dan like you see in the movie. He is killed in the dead of night by assassins. Not even Orgrim knows about it. Fortunately, the very famous scene, little baby Thrall is put on the little bed in the water and sent off. And even though his parents die,
just like Moses.
Just like Moses. Just like Moses.
He is. And
yes.
then he parts the.
Let my people go.
He parts the maelstrom.
Yeah, he parts the maelstrom. So, anyways, so Gul'dan's like, great, took care of the Frost Wolves, not a problem anymore. Orgrim, who is a Blackrock who did not drink the blood, if I remember correctly, he came up with an excuse. He didn't want to do it. He said, like, I'm not feeling well, because not all orcs drank the blood.
Really kind of tired today, and
yeah.
I'm lactose intolerant, and I had to have that dairy, and I just really shouldn't do anything.
Yeah, is this?
I had to have that ice cream.
Yeah, is this kosher?
Oh man,
is this kosher?
Somehow we have.
So he doesn't drink it.
We have turned the orcs into the Jewish faith as well. Yeah. Worried about you've got little baby Thrall Moses and worried about kosher fell blood. I'm down with it.
It's important to remember that he didn't drink the blood, though, because that means he's not driven by bloodlust, right? Like he's not a warmongering fool. He retains the shamanistic traditions of the orcs. And if I remember correctly, it's when he finds out what happened to Durotan that he says enough is enough. And he has had it, and he challenges his own chief, not just the war chief, but the chief of his clan to Mak'gora. The one-on-one battle to the death, and Orgrim wins. He wins the Mak'gora. He kills Blackhand and becomes the second war chief of the original Horde. And this is hopefully, if you don't know what happens after that, you're thinking, oh, this is a great turning point, right? We have an OG orc with morals and tradition is now in charge of the Horde, and they're just on the verge of winning the first war, right? Like they've sacked Stormwind. What's his name? Anduin has. This is gonna get confusing. Not Anduin Wrynn, but Anduin Lothar. Yeah, Anduin Lothar. The top knight of Stormwind. Has escaped with young about 10-year-old Varian Wrynn, has escaped up to the north, heading to Lordaeron.
And Lothar was the best friend of, oh my god,
Medivh.
No, Medivh, not Medivh, but also Lane? King Lane Wrynn.
Yeah. I feel like that's a story that's going to come out one day, like the swashbuckling adventures of those guys as teenagers.
Medivh, yeah. Don't you? Like, I know there's a bunch of controversy about the Solo movie, but I'm super excited about watching Han Solo and Chewie and
oh, me too.
Oh my god, Lando Calrissian. I don't even care. It could be terrible, but I'm.
Wait.
I don't care.
won't see it.
I want to. I
won't
want
see
to
it.
watch it. Well, good. You can't. You don't watch that, and don't join the horde because you're a bad person.
Leaves it more for us.
Exactly. I'll watch it
more
twice.
dingus.
I'll watch it twice for both of us. Twice for me and twice for you. I'm gonna
She
tell
was
you the whole
watched it.
thing.
Now I can only watch it once.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Anyway, but no, it sounds like great. The adventures of Medivh and Lane and Lothar. I'm down with it.
So a couple things happen here when Orgrim takes charge. First of all, he takes charge right at the moment when Medivh is killed. Right, Medivh is killed by Lothar. That happens before, obviously, he escapes north. But Medivh is killed right at the moment when Gul'dan is communing with him telepathically to open the portal, right? To keep the portal open, and Gul'dan gets messed up and goes into a coma, and he's in a coma for weeks. And so, like when he goes down, so think about it from Gul'dan's perspective. You're winning the war. You've got Blackhand as your war chief. You're opening the dark portal. You're doing it. Next thing you know, you wake up. It's like 3 months later. Blackhand's dead. Orgrim's in charge. And he's
trying to
executed. And he executes the entire Shadow Council.
Right.
Because he hates Gul'dan.
Yeah.
So the only reason he doesn't kill Gul'dan is because he wants him to wake up and know why he's going to die.
Know why he's dead. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Orgrim comes. So he wakes up and he's like, well, how's it going? What? And Orgrim's there, and he says, he basically brings him up to speed, tells him he's going to die, and that sneaky rat Gul'dan manages to talk his way out of it. He manages to convince Orgrim that, yeah, we won this, but the full might of the Alliance is about to rain down on us. You need me. And I know we can use this spell magic. And furthermore, it's kind of unfortunate you killed all my buddies because they could have used it too. But guess what? I can bring their spirits back, and they can become our warriors. And so Orgrim begrudgingly agrees to this idea. It's worth reading the books to understand exactly how this plays out, because it sounds really simplistic just to say Orgrim agrees, but he does agree. And Gul'dan basically gathers up some human corpses and manages to raise them as undead, giving them the spirits of his former Shadow Council. And these are the first Death Knights, the Death Knights of the original Horde. And it's important to point out that the original Death Knights are not the same as the Death Knights that we know in World of Warcraft today. These are strictly human bodies with the souls of dead orcs.
Dead warlock orcs.
Dead warlock orcs. Yeah. And they're pretty gross.
Now, while this is going on, right? Because this is all happening on Azeroth.
This is happening in Azeroth.
At the end of the second war now?
No, we're about to start the second war.
We're about to start the second war. So this is the end of the first war, all happening on Azeroth. And while this is going on, the dark portal closes, and all the orcs on Draenor are like, wait a minute, wait a minute. They never came back. The doors closed. What happened? Right? And so at that point, the Horde is dead, right? The Horde is over. There's no Horde. The Horde leader's over there. Blackhand is over there, right? They don't know if he's gotten killed and all that. They don't know anything about that. And so all of these tribes left, it's kind of getting kind of weird, and they don't know what happens. And up rises our boy, the leader of the Shadow Moon clan, Ner'zhul, right?
Ner'zhul, yeah. Ner'zhul sort of becomes the remaining orcs on Draenor, with no knowledge if they'll ever see Azeroth again, decide that they need a new war chief, and Ner'zhul becomes the guy. And Ner'zhul is one of the most interesting and tragic characters in all of Warcraft lore. And I don't want to get too much into his story right now, but he doesn't want this job. he regrets the part that he played in the bringing of the Burning Legion.
Even alternate universe Ner'zhul is really cool. At least his wife joins the heroes on Alliance and Horde, right? And helps you find him and stop him because she's like, he's gone crazy.
Yeah.
This blood that he's doing things he's desecrated our ancestors' tombs. That's not my husband. I don't know who that is, but kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he, of course, will meet. I mean, he later will go on. We'll hold off on what happens to him, I guess. But or maybe we won't. He ultimately becomes. So this will happen later on, at the end of the Second War.
And this is sort of part of. This came about as part of Gul'dan's sort of plan, and him communing with Kil'jaeden and being like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to? We got to give him a Death Knight army because he,
Yeah, we gotta catch Kil'jaeden.
We got to catch this fly with honey, not vinegar, right? We need Orgrim Doomhammer on our side. We're going to give him an army of Death Knights. Let's give him an army of Death Knights, but an army strong enough to kill him when we're ready and take over the Horde ourselves, right? And so in order to do that, Kil'jaeden
ultimately
a Lich King.
Well, that's going to happen later on, but yes, the Lich King is a creation of Kil'jaeden that will happen at the end of the second war. After Azeroth, when Draenor is destroyed and becomes Outland, that's basically the conclusion of the Second War. Let's get there. So Orgrim, the big thing about the Second War is that they've got to go north. They've got to go north and they've got to take out Lordaeron. They know that Lordaeron is the most powerful human nation. They know that there's 7 human nations. They've destroyed one of them. They know that Kultiras is a nation that is out in the water, and it's going to be a big problem for war on the seas, but not a big problem on the mainland. So that really leaves five human nations, and one of them, I believe, the nation of Alterac, they managed to strike a deal, a secret deal with, is his name Paranold? The leader of Alterac at the time, who's just a sniveling coward that doesn't want to die, who agrees to let the Horde secretly pass through their lands, which is another thing that's a whole side note. What's important here, before I get too far off track, is Orgrim decides they're going to build ships, they're going to sail north, they're going to invade Lordaeron. They're going to invade Lordaeron, and Gul'dan's going to come with them, and he's going to help them. And this is largely Kil'jaeden's idea through Gul'dan. Kil'jaeden wants Azeroth to be wiped out because his boss, Sargeras, wants to take Azeroth. And the best way to do this is for their minions, the orcs, to go in and wipe out all the mortals of Azeroth that gave them so much trouble 10,000 years ago. That's the Grandmaster plan from the Burning Legion's perspective.
Right. The
whole purpose of the Horde is to wipe out the mortals of Azeroth so that there's no resistance when Sargeras returns. That's the whole reason that they're there. The problem is Gul'dan. Gul'dan, that's not his priority. Gul'dan's priority is Gul'dan. And when they decide to power, he wants power. And Gul'dan happens to know, through stories that we won't get into right now, he happens to know that somewhere in that ocean they're sailing through, down at the bottom, is the tomb of Sargeras. And if he could get to the tomb of Sargeras and capture the power within there, he could become even more than he is right now. And so, against the will of his master Kil'jaeden, as they're sailing north, he takes his minions and he takes a left, and he goes over to the Broken Isles, and he raises the tomb of Sargeras, and he goes in there, and ultimately he dies. This is where original Gul'dan meets his fate. Unceremoniously, anticlimactic, he dies by his own stupid, idiotic mistake. He goes into a demon-infested fortress that he raised from the ocean floor. He is warned before he goes in by Kil'jaeden in his mind, don't do this, but he does it. And so he meets a terrible and painful death in the tomb of Sargeras. And funny funny side note,
he dies horribly.
If you go into the raid Tomb of Sargeras, you can find his skeleton. It's in there. Look for it.
You can find his skeleton, and you can also click on some runes along the wall and become Gul'dan himself for a little bit.
Gul'dan himself. That sounds like a sitcom.
Gul'dan himself. Or a one-man play.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, exactly.
So now this screws Orgrim because he takes enough might away that the Alliance is able to prevail the invasion, because this is right around the time, not related to what we're talking about today, but this is when Turalyon rises up. This is when all the Paladins. What's his name? Uther. Thank you. This is when the Paladins rise up. And this is when the Alliance...
When they all get their holy power. Because we talked about that before, right? They've been a faction already. Uther gets these holy warriors together called Paladins to be the last line of defense and the first line of the line of defense, right?
Yeah.
Holy warriors, defenders of Lordaeron. And along with them are particularly Turalyon, who is the first one. He was always kind of maybe the weakest member of the order, right?
Yeah, he was full of self-doubt.
Right.
Uther was the big deal. But Turalyon was baffled as to why he got chosen as one of the first few, but he was there. This is also the moment. I've been calling the humans of Stormwind the Alliance up to this point, but that actually hasn't been accurate. This is the beginning of the Alliance right now. In the first war, it's just the Horde against Stormwind. It is in the second war when the human factions join together, along with dwarves and gnomes and high elves, to form the first alliance. High elves being what are now blood elves, interestingly. And they overcome. They push back, and Orgrim is forced to retreat. And there's other stories that go on. There's some interesting stuff that also happens over in what is now the Ghostlands. The first alliance with Troll, the first time the Horde ever brings in an outside race, I guess you could say, is in this moment where the trolls of what is now Zulaman agree to join the Horde because they hate the elves so much, and the elves are with the Alliance. And this is what leads Illyria to hate the Horde so much to this day. But anyways, Orgrim gets pushed back, and the Alliance pushes south through Khazmodan. And it all comes to a head at the foot of Blackrock Mountain in what is now known as the Burning Steps, is the final battle, at least on the Azerothian front of the Second War. And it is here when the Horde and the Alliance clash, and the leader of the Alliance army, Anduin Lothar, the last knight of Stormwind, faces Orgrim Doomhammer, war chief of the Horde, in singles combat. And they duke it out in the Burning Steps
for a millennia. No,
for a millennia. Well, for a
1,000 years.
For a while. And sadly, if you're an Alliance loyalist like me, Orgrim wins the fight. Orgrim, who already killed Blackhand, kills Anduin Lothar in a disgusting way, bringing the Doomhammer. So bringing the Doomhammer, if I remember correctly, he brings the Doomhammer square down on Lothar's head, who puts up his sword to block it. The sword breaks, and the hammer pushes his head into his torso, crushes him.
Brutal.
And it's
there goes our family-friendly tag right there. It's over.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
I can't remember which book talks about this. Oh, I think it's Tides of Darkness. But it discusses the sound of it, and it's anyway. So, but this is the moment for Turalyon. He sees this happen. He sees a man that he admired killed, and this is the moment when the light finds Turalyon, and Turalyon picks up the broken sword of Anduin Lothar, and
he still wields today, by the way.
He does, and that's why if you look on the character model for Turalyon, his sword is broken at one point, but finished in light. And
been literally reforged, light forged.
Yeah, it's light forged. So good. And he defeats, Turalyon defeats Orgrim. He defeats him, but he does not execute him. he decides in the moment, as all way too good guys do, that he's not going to kill this man, and instead he arrests Orgrim Doomhammer, and gets the Horde to surrender. And that's the end of Orgrim's reign as the war chief. Now, getting back to Ner'zhul, the Dark Portal, through a series of events that we don't need to discuss right now, is opened again, and a group of the Alliance, who call themselves the Sons of Lothar in honor of their fallen leader, the 5 main leaders of which are, let's see if we got them. We got Turalyon, we got Illyria,
Yep.
we got Khadgar,
Yep.
we got Trollbane, and we got Curdrum Wildhammer, I think, the dwarf.
Yep.
Yeah.
These guys take all the volunteers that are willing to go with them on a one-way mission through the Dark Portal to make sure that this thing never opens again. And when they get in there, they find out Ner'zhul's been busy. He's been opening portals. He's been doing some crazy stuff. And he ends up trying to open as many portals as he can. I'm trying to remember here. I think it's originally under the guise of trying to find new worlds to invade, because they've given up on Azeroth. They're like, that's a lost cause, but we need new worlds to invade because our world's dead. That's why we had to leave it in the first place. We killed all the life here. He goes nuts with portals. Portals go crazy. Long story short, he blows up his planet. And as he's blowing up his planet into what is now Outland, the members of the Alliance that are there, they have to destroy the portal as quick as they can, because so the explosion doesn't go through the portal and engulf Azeroth as well. So they destroy the portal. As the world's blowing up, there's all these portals opening up everywhere to who knows where, and Turalyon and Illyria step into one of the portals to save themselves. And that was the last they're ever heard from until patch 7.3. Which is why it was such a big effing deal that they're back, if you're a fan of this stuff. Now, Ner'zhul also steps through a portal because he is so scared of what's going to happen to him from Kil'jaeden, who he betrayed, essentially, did not follow Kil'jaeden's instructions. And poor Ner'zhul, wouldn't you know it, he steps through a portal, and what does he find? Kil'jaeden.
Steps through a portal to, what is it, Argus, or is Kil'jaeden just there?
They don't, as I remember, the book doesn't quite explain it, but he just like
walks in and there's
there.
Kil'jaeden.
Yeah, and he's like, oh geez, what are the odds?
He's basically the bad luck Brian of the orc race.
Yeah.
So Kil'jaeden proceeds to painfully tear his soul from his body, slowly and deliberately and painfully, and turns him into what will become the original incarnation of the Lich King, which Kil'jaeden will then plant in the frozen wastes of Northrend, along with Frostmourne, to begin the Legion's next attempt at wiping out all of humanity
and thus
in Azeroth.
Ends Ner'zhul's rule as the war chief. So those are our... What? Go ahead.
One little footnote, because it came up in the chat while we were talking. Most of the Horde is brought into concentration camps, internment camps, whatever you want to call them, and they're trapped, and that's where they will stay for the next several years until Thrall rises to power and builds the new Horde. But some of the orcs do decide to keep the original Horde going, and they retreat into Blackrock Mountain, and they elect their war chief, Blackhand's son, Rend, I believe. I can't remember if it was Maim or Rend, but I think it's Rend as their war chief. And that's who you're actually facing when you go into Blackrock Spire. Lower Blackrock Spire and Upper Blackrock Spire is the remnants of the original Horde. That's who those orcs are in there. And you kill them because it's a dungeon. So
right.
That's
and you kill them
and that's what you do.
Yeah.
But those are our war chiefs. So we've got Blackhand, Orgrim, Ner'zhul, and that's it for the Horde. The Horde's done.
The original Horde.
Maybe to be continued. Dum, dum, dum. So we'll talk more about the Horde War Chiefs coming up next week, because obviously it's got to go somewhere, because pretty sure you can log into the game right now and play the Horde faction. So what happened to the Horde after the dismantling of it at the end of the Second War? We shall find out. Most of you already know, but we'll talk a little bit about some more of the War Chiefs next time. But let's talk a little bit... and let's just say we've got a lot of, these are really cool questions that you've come up with, Jared, but some of them we might want to save until the end. But of the, really quickly, we'll ask this first one. Of the War Chiefs we discussed today, who was the best War Chief? Who was the best of the ones we discussed today, and why? And how do we... So Jared says Orgrim. Why, Jared? Why do you say Orgrim?
Because he was the one that wasn't corrupted by Gul'dan. I mean, he kind of was a little bit eventually, but he stood up to Gul'dan. That's why. He was the most good guy of the War Chiefs.
Yes.
Shoeboots, what do you think? Who's the best War Chief, and what makes them the best War Chief?
Well, I definitely like the character Orgrim Doomhammer is an amazing character, and so I'm drawn to say Orgrim on one hand, especially since he's Thrall before there was Thrall, right? Like
he taught Thrall to Thrall.
Yeah, not only did he teach him, but Thrall wields the Doomhammer, Orgrim's weapon, and wears
Orgrim's armor. Yeah,
and wear Orgrim's armor. So Orgrim is the original Thrall. He was Thrall before Thrall was even cool. So I like that about Orgrim. On the other hand, Orgrim, for all that was great about him, made some really bad decisions. He should have just killed Gul'dan. Imagine how much bloodshed could have been stopped. Now, obviously, this doesn't really help the story. Of Warcraft. But But if we're assessing him as if these are real historical people, then yes, this was a huge mistake for him to place his trust in Gul'dan. He had a huge opportunity, and he had the will of the Horde behind him to do whatever he wanted to do. He could have made peace with the humans if he wanted. He could have staked a claim and carved out a piece of Azeroth for the Horde, and they could have coexisted. I really like Ner'zhul as well, though, because he's just such a punching bag in this story. Like I'd like for us to one day actually do like we'll do a deep dive on
eventually we'll do a deep dive on every character ever, but
he just gets played by everybody, and in the end nothing works out for him. He dies the most painful death, and as we know, he goes on to finally get his revenge by becoming the Lich King and getting Arthas, and finally we're going to do something here. And what happens? Arthas kills his soul.
It is. It's great. He just says, and that's a nice helmet. I'll take that. This is going to be great. I'm the new Lich King.
And his ending is so anticlimactic that he dies. He's murdered inside of Arthas's mind. Like he's just he doesn't even get, he doesn't
get to fight.
Get a death. Yeah.
It's not even,
and it's almost like, I don't know if you guys ever did this. When I was a kid, Mortal Kombat was like the greatest video game of all time, right? Yeah. And so we used to have we would talk about playing Mortal Kombat, but we would be talking okay, and so I'm gonna fire a fireball at you. Well, I'm going to duck, and then I'm going to uppercut. Well, I blocked it. So it's that's what Arthas is doing in his head. And he's like, I parry. He's like, and just inventing all this stuff to where he can't win,
Yeah.
I surround you by skeletons. You can't do that. Yeah, I can. It's my head.
The saddest part about Ner'zhul is realistically, with very rare exception, you as a player character are the only exception, because you actually do a quest line where the spirit of what was once the good Arthas tells you this, but nobody even knows what happened to Ner'zhul. Everyone just presumes he died when Outland happened. Nobody knows that he had suffered that painful torture, and nobody knows that he had anything to do with the Lich King. I mean, Arthas knew, but that's just nobody knows or cares about it. He's just the most pathetic character. It's just really sad. Poor guy.
And the thing is that he really really wanted to do well by his people. Like the people that he was leading, he really, really, really wanted to make their lives better. But he was so incredibly misguided and had a terrible judgment at every step of the way. Just every decision that he ever made turned against him at some point down the road.
Yeah. And he was too much of a coward. He was too much of a coward to take the offer from Kil'jaeden. But then when Gul'dan took the offer, he was too much of a coward to, like, he knew about it. He just went along with it.
Back, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't. He could have nipped the whole thing in the bud by like turning to his clan and being like, "Hey, he just made a deal with a demon, you guys."
Comes into work today. All right, guys, we got some shamaning to do. We're gonna have to, go over here and use some healing waters on the, the hospital, and then we gotta, there's we gotta go over to the soup kitchen and use our fire to be able to start their soup cooking, and then oh, hey Gul'dan, how you doing? Hey boss. Oh, by the way, I returned that call from that guy Kil'jaeden. That you did what? Yeah, I returned that call for you. I can't believe he wanted to give us a lot of power for free, and you were like, and I asked, what will it cost us? And he said everything, and I'm like, well, that's cryptic. Whatever, I got nothing anyway, so joke's on you. So yeah, that's happened. All right then. We're gonna need to throw this agenda out. Somebody bring me my planner. Anyway, there you go. That's how it happened that day. But yeah, really cool. And if we're talking about, I don't know, I don't want to. Since no one said Black Hand, I'm going to say Black Hand. But I think in a lot of ways he is the war chief. He's the war chief that they all chose. He is the ideal war chief for what the Horde was, which was a war machine. That's what he was. He was the strongest of the strong. He was the leader. He was someone no one was going to, no matter good, bad, whatever. His decisions were made on power. He was, and we'll talk about this person next time possibly, he was the war chief Garrosh wanted to be.
Absolutely.
That's the Horde. This is the return to the Horde that we need. After Garrosh escapes to alternate timeline Draenor, that's what he's telling Grom. This is what the Horde can be. This is what it could be. Let me help you build it. Because I know what it could be. I've seen it. I know what it could be. This is what it is, and we're not going to let the demons in on it. We can do it without the demons, right? And that's what he always wanted. It's this idea of being the strongest and the most powerful and not allowing your enemies to become stronger. In a lot of ways, maybe we'll talk about this person a little bit later too, that's kind of what Sylvanas is trying to do for the Horde again too, right? We're not going to allow, we see it in some of the text, right? We're not going to allow the Alliance to become stronger than us. I'm not going to allow the Alliance to kill Horde children for years and years and years. I'm not going to let this struggle continue. We're going to be stronger and more powerful than the Alliance, period, and then they'll stop messing with us. Not necessarily want to wipe them all out, but be stronger than they are so they will not even think about coming against us. And that's how the war is going to end. With their submission. You know what I mean? That's the idea of the war chief, and that was Black Hand. Annihilate everything.
Absolutely.
until people start moving out of your way. So, I don't know. I think it's really great. Oh yeah, I'm saving the rest of them. We've got to move on. We've got to be done. Everybody's like writing over here. Save this one. We'll talk about this later. But anyway, we have a lot of stuff. War chiefs are really cool. We're going to keep talking about this as we move on in later episodes. So if you guys have any interesting thoughts about the show or about war chiefs, please send them to us. We want to know what you think. We want to know how you feel about the old war chiefs. We want to know any speculations or questions about new war chiefs that you might have. Where did this Horde come from? And we'll probably do a similar thing for the Alliance at one point too. But I've really been into the Horde recently, as you know, and there's a lot of really cool lore from the Horde. But the Alliance follows a different but yet similar path in a lot of ways. So we may do the same thing for the Alliance races as well. But anyway, thanks, DK. Appreciate it. Aw. He says he loves the show and it was a great segment. I thought it was a pretty solid segment too. But real quick before we get out of here, you guys have sent us some feedback. So let's move into our next segment. Merely some feedback from my X tape, MYXT.
Mixed
Is that
tape.
mixed tape? My Xta?
Oh, mixed tape.
I got it. That's what I thought too. From @mixtape. While
It took me a couple of
while listening to your latest podcast, I got into thinking about the section of Lightforged humans. What if we have quest lines that allow your present race to get augmentations like void dwarves or fell pandas? What do you guys think?
I like it a
Fell
lot.
pandas?
If they can program it in, I'm sure they'd want to do it. But that's the idea, like, of having these new things. But yeah.
I think like a lot of these speculation ones, I've come to realize that I'm sometimes a bit of the buzzkill about them, because I start to like say something like, well, if you think about the mechanics of the game, it's probably not going to happen. They have to redesign, blah, blah, blah. But this is actually would require very little effort. Like from a design perspective, Blizzard would get a lot of bang for their buck, like a huge return on their investment for the amount of time they would have to put into this versus the options that they could give people for it. So I think it's a great idea.
I think it's a terrible idea.
Okay. Well.
I hate it. And this is why. Because I hate void elves more than any elves. And that's a lot of elf hate. And the reason I hate void elves is because they make no bleepity bleep sense. They make no sense. They're just there because Blizzard thought it was cool and be like, let's put purple fire in their hair. It's stupid and I hate it. And just because it looks cool doesn't mean you should do it. Stop it. Stop it. Now, if they can make the lore make sense, which they tried with the Void Elves, even if they make the lore but it doesn't. It's like, where did this come from? Because I think it would be such a better story if Illyria was the only one. You know what I mean? I loved her story. I think her
stories, I still
dealing with Vord powers is awesome. And I kind of wish they had to like let it go a little bit. And then she teaches, that should have been a new class, not a new race. I really strongly believe that. She should have been teaching anybody and everybody, hey, I'm now the Void Lord trainer or whatever.
They needed a way to get Blood Elves back into, or well, High Elves, I say in quotation marks, back into the Alliance somehow. And I think it fits personally. But as far as the rest of them go, Void Dwarves and Fell Pandas, it's a stretch. It's a huge stretch.
I think it would have been a better lore-wise story. And obviously you would have had to do something to compensate, but I think it would have been really cool to have the Blood Elves leave. You know what I mean? Or at least a contingent of Blood Elves leave. And I know that's sort of what they did, but it's just dumb. It's just dumb the way they did it.
They knew they wanted to give the Nightborn to somebody. They decided, and to me, this is if I'm speculating, I think that this is where Void Elves come from. They decided, okay, the Nightborn, we're going to give him to somebody, but they probably debated on giving them to both, like making them like Pandaren, because that's such a huge and involved race on both sides. And I think when they decided to do it, they said, okay, well, what could we do to complement them if we were only going to give them to one? I really think that's where Void Elves come from.
It probably is.
That's not justifying it. That's not a good reason to do it.
I still hate it. Because it would be so much more to me. I get the idea of having High Elves. Call them High Elves. The whole Void Elf thing is stupid, because what happens from a storytelling perspective for me is that these guys are just refugees. They don't have anywhere to go. So they're going to take they're going to take all offers at this point. It could have been anybody, other than maybe the Legion itself, because they just fought them. But it could have been, a clan of Furblong. They're like, hey, you guys need some friends? All right.
You could also say that about the goblins in Worgen too, though, if that's the logic, because their hometowns are destroyed completely. I mean, it makes sense where they went at the time. when they went.
But they already had
from their
allies,
home places.
allies-ish in the, you know what I mean? It's just I don't know. It seems like what I would have rather, and let me say what I would have rather seen instead of what happened, right? Because what you have are a group of void elves that basically they don't want to get kicked out of the Horde, but they do because they're too voidy and they don't like what's going on. They don't want them to contaminate the Sunwell, right?
Yeah.
That's the story. So they would rather be in the Horde, but they can't be because they're too voidy. They're too emo. And they're violating everybody's wells, right? And so as the stupid frickin' alliance, we're like, just come over here and join us. This can't be a bad idea. You're too shady for the Horde. Come join the alliance. Sounds like a terrible idea. Stupid. Yeah, all that old god magic, bring it on over. It's idiotic. But what should have happened is for Illyria to have come to Stormwind or to Silvermoon the way she did. And for her to have been gathering support. You need to join the alliance. Sylvanas is nuts. My sister is insane. Have you heard what she's doing? Da-da-da-da. And she gets maybe Lady Liadrin, maybe some prominent, maybe it's Lotharmar himself, prominent Blood Elf leader to be like, yeah. And then the other prominent Blood Elf leader, Liadrin, Lotharmar, whoever, whatever, is like, are you kidding? We're not, the Horde is our allies. We are the Horde, for the Horde. What are you doing? We're not going back over there. But the Horde is so bad. And then you actually have a people willingly, a civil war between Blood Elves and what, this reformed High Elf something. And then you have a race of High Elves, you know what I mean? And maybe she teaches those High Elves void magic or something. But they could have made the story so much better rather than, these are some people that the Horde kicked out, so let's just take them because they have purple hair.
I mean, I don't like being put in the position to have to defend the Void Elves because I agree with you. I don't think that they're a particularly strong addition story-wise. They're certainly cool looking, but if you're going to do it, they did it well. Like they didn't, because it was Illyria that convinced them to join, right? Their loyalty is not to the Alliance; it's to Illyria. They joined the Alliance because Illyria said join the Alliance.
Right, but it's one of those things where I just think I don't know. I think right now, even after they join the alliance, right now, Lotharmar comes to him and is like, guys, you know what? I was kind of rash. I'm sorry. Come on back. Come on back to Silvermoon. Come on back to the Horde. They'd be like, yeah, cool. Bye. Peace, alliance. We're good. Bye, Illyria. That was nice, but I'm going back to my friends that love me again.
I don't necessarily think that would happen, though, because they were subjugated. Like, they didn't leave because they were being kind of sort of bullied around. They were subjugated kicked and taunted and
because they're channeling the old god energy in order to corrupt the Sunwell. Duh. Yeah. You can't do that. That's a thing you can't do. You're not allowed to, like almost literally worship demonic energies, Satan, but and corrupt the entire power structure of the society. So yeah, you can't do that. And if you do that, you're going to jail or you're getting kicked out. They were lucky they didn't get executed. Void elves. Get out of my country, wrong. Void elves. Get out of my country.
What's done is done, I guess.
I know it is, but that's my feeling on the Void Elves. Night Elves are awesome. Or not Night Elves. Nightborn Elves are awesome. Night Elves are
I don't know of anybody that has defended the story of Void Elves. I know a lot of people that have said they're awesome looking.
Yeah, I know.
I've said it.
Their hair is kind of cool, but in that like my little sister emo way. You know what I mean? It's weird. I don't know.
I love the
They're
puns.
super edgy.
The
lots
puns
of edge.
are great.
But yeah, if you love Void Elves, keep loving Void Elves. But I think the lore is dumb, and I wish, I personally, I think what I'm so frustrated about, it's not necessarily it's not a bad story, I guess. It's not, but it's just like, I know Blizzard can do so much better. They've done so much better with almost everything else, even the stupid Night Elves. You know what I mean? Even the stupid gnomes have a better story than that.
Well, yes, they do. The awesome gnomes have a better story. One that We really need to tap.
We will
This is
at
like
some
the
point.
saddest fact that it's such an untold story.
Yeah, we'll hit that. We've got so many. We've already like planned our episodes out apparently for the next 100 years. So we have so much stuff we want to keep talking about. But thank you, Mixtape. Thank you, Mixtape, for allowing me to go on that tirade. One more thing from Shorel MN. Is the reason Vol'jin wasn't a compelling war chief because he wasn't a visible character in the role? Interesting. And we might bring this up again next time as well. I should have skipped this one, but we already brought it up because we may or may not be talking about Vol'jin in a future episode. But what do you guys think? The reason Vol'jin wasn't a compelling war chief because he wasn't a visible character in the role. And was he a compelling war chief or not?
I don't think he was. I don't think he was because we made him war chief and immediately jump ship went to what is that place called?
Broken Isles?
Former Outland. No.
Draenor?
Outland. Yeah, we went to Draenor, completely skipped over like anything that he could possibly have done. So he wasn't really that big of a factor. Like no like major faction leaders were there. Like they were all missing.
Thrall was there.
Like I mean, Thrall was there, but he wasn't.
Whatever. You know as well as I do that Draenor, Warlords of Draenor was Mitson's retirement party.
That's true.
They just said, Chris, do whatever you want. Like, just all the dumb crap that you've been wanting to do. Go ahead, rewrite the story. Have Thrall be the main character, even though we already wrote him out. Just, do what you want to do, bud.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, no, I feel you. Shoe Boots, how do you feel?
I think he certainly could have been compelling. They just didn't use him.
Yeah,
I was really surprised when he died. Like, it just, I wonder how much thought went into him dying in the Broken Shore. I wonder at what point they decided to do that, because it feels like a bit of an afterthought that basically was made not because it was good for Vol'jin, but because it was good for them wanting to put Sylvanas in charge, because Sylvanas is a fan favorite.
They should have made Sylvanas the war chief in the beginning and then had Vol'jin replace her when she went nuts.
I disagree. I think Sylvanas is a terrible war chief, and I think she is much better served as anything but a war chief. I think that she won't be a war chief long for this reason, because they can't really tell much of a story of her as long as she is one.
I don't know. We'll see about that. And we've had this argument before, and I love your point, because I do think Sylvanas is a really interesting character in the shadows. But what this does is it is also a compelling story to see Sylvanas thrust into the limelight that she never really wanted. Right? And it's almost like the Horde was, I mean, in a lot of ways I know the Horde, nobody in the Horde really wanted Sylvanas to lead, but the Horde players all did. So it's like almost like the people are making her, and it's almost like a king, what I'm thinking, like the biblical, like King David or something like that. Like, I never wanted to be king, but you all made me king, so here I am. Or King Saul, maybe. And this, know, this idea of, the people want a king, so here I am, I'll do it. And that's sort of like the people need a war chief, and they want me. So here I am, I have to. And now she's forced to make different decisions. And like you were saying, she's already said, she's basically, her character has become very selfish. I'm only going to serve myself.
Mm. Yeah. And Vol'jin never got that opportunity.
And maybe the Forsaken. You know what I mean? But now that she's war chief, crap, I have to bring the whole Horde in on this.
I was really excited when Vol'jin became the war chief, and I was really bummed when he ceased to be the war chief.
I think they missed an opportunity there.
They missed a huge.
But
maybe,
I think
who knows?
Draenor could have been better, and I think the story could have gone the same way, but I feel like he should have been more of a center point. So I agree, Shorel.
Sure. One thing though, and one of the Warcraft books I have not read is the Vol'jin book. Is it Shadows of the Horde? I think it's called. And I really want to get that one under my belt before Battle for Azeroth comes out.
That might be some good stuff.
Sounds like there's a lot of stuff to do with the Loa, and the quest line right out of the gate on the Horde side, I think, is going to relate closely to that book. So I'm going to try and read that before Christy Golden's new book comes out. And I think the way I currently feel about Sylvanas is I don't like her as war chief. I love the character, and I have loved the character since Warcraft 3. I don't want her to turn into a big bad, so I would like to see her, for one reason or another, step down as war chief sooner than later, in my opinion. But I'm going to put that opinion on the shelf because maybe it'll change after this next book comes out that largely will discuss Sylvanas. So
I think that she will at some point, and we'll talk about this in a future episode as well. But I don't think she becomes a big bad. I think she gets Makgarad, and I think she loses. And I think at the hour of her third death, ushers in their coming. And I think the next expansion is going to be super, super old god.
I like that.
That's what
you
I think
have a valid
happens.
point, sir.
That's what I think happens to Sylvanas.
But she's died 3 times.
You can argue that she's
I guess
died 3 times.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
You can argue that she's died 3 times, but the 3 times technically are her first death when she turns into a Banshee Queen, then when she throws herself off the tower,
Westcrown Citadel,
and what's the third death?
During the quest line of Silver Pine Forest, she's killed, and a Valkyr gives its soul to revive her.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
So you could argue that
maybe her
first one doesn't count?
first death doesn't count because that's her becoming the Banshee Queen.
That's her birth as the Banshee.
That's her rebirth, and then you have 3 deaths. So I don't know, or they retcon it somehow to make it only 3 deaths. But that's what I think. I think that would be a compelling thing, and I think it would be really interesting and then who challenges the Makara? Sourfang? Please God, yes.
I think Sourfang is the likely successor.
But it could be anybody. I mean, it could be anybody, and we might talk about other future war chief. It's somebody earlier. Robert Blackhand. It could be Robert Blackhand. Somebody said earlier, Duratan. Was it Duratan from New Universe Duratan coming back? I think Grommash? A really Grommash. It might have been Grommash coming in and being like, yeah, well, I'll just lead the real horde now, and I'm all nice now because you guys saved me from the pillar boss.
Now you want to be nice?
And Thrall got kids, yo. Thrall's kids aren't just going to let the horde do whatever. You know what I mean? He's got a son and a daughter or something like that.
I think so.
I don't know how's it work. Shoeboots, tell me, or is it just?
I don't know. I think he's got because I remember at the end of Dragon Soul he had one on the way.
I need sons. I need Thrall's daughter. I need Thrall's daughter to be the next war chief. That's what I want. That's all I want in life. I want Thrall's daughter.
You heard it
but
here
we'll
first,
talk
folks.
more about. We'll talk if he doesn't have a daughter yet. Him and Agra need to get on it. Because that's what I need in my life. It's
been a couple of years since we've seen either of those characters, so it's entirely possible that
they're definitely parents by now. I just don't know what the children's situation is.
And that's I really want that because I don't want Thrall back. A lot of people are like, Thrall, we need Thrall back. No, Thrall's gone. He's done. He's not war chief. He will not be war chief. We need to get over that. Green Jesus he's gone and ascended back into Green Jesus heaven. Now we need to move on. And that's what Vol'jin was.
Yeah, Saurfang would be ideal in my opinion because you want a character like Varian that just his story is not going to change him that much, right?
Yeah,
like you need someone that's going to be able to sit on that throne and serve the storyline for years to come, and that's why I think Saurfang would be the best choice. Also,
DK, I was about to just say Bane Bloodhoof as well. Is it someone else that needs to be considered?
He could also,
but his storyline needs to be developed a little bit more. But it's really interesting because his father was killed in a Makara. You know what I mean?
It's true.
That Garrosh unknowingly cheated in. But I think it's really all of these could be awesome. Lor'thramar also would be really interesting. Lor'thramar is still the Regent Lord of Silvermoon. Nobody has taken over leadership of the Blood Elves since Kael'thas. Lor'thramar is a Regent Lord. He's not a king. He's not a leader. He's a Regent Lord, right? Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, I don't think they ever really settled it. Like that in Kael'thas's absence, they never really said, "Well, he's dead now. I guess we should probably
And we
make
lost
something
Jared.
official." I don't think they ever did.
Jared just hung up on us.
Oh well.
I don't know what happened. We should take that as a clue, guys, because I know I'm pretty sure we've gone about 2 hours.
Yeah, we
there's
have.
no way I'm going to be able to fit all of our. We're going to have to buy more space on Libsyn, and now everything's screwed up because Jared left on the cameras. So with that, we're going to call it. Everybody, we are going to continue this conversation. We loved having you. We're going to go really quickly through this because I'm done with the recording, but that's it. I'm not Shoe Boots. I'm Sharku. Hey, you can find me pretty much everywhere at Sharku_CTR, Twitter, Twitch, all the good places. Shoe Boots is the Shoe Boots on Twitter. There's Jared back, maybe. Shoe Boots on Twitter, theshoeboots@gmail.com. Is his email, and it's at the Shoe Boots, right?
Yeah, and on Twitch it's Shoe Boots.
On Twitch it's just Shoe Boots. Jared at prosperity_42 on Twitter, prosperity42 on his YouTube. Check us all out. Check us out as well. Merely a setback. .com. No, we don't have a .com. Merely a setback at Setback Podcast. You can also check us out on patreon.com/setback podcast. I'm trying to make all this up as we go to do it really, really quick. Give us some feedback. Setbackpodcast@gmail.com if you want to send us email. Tweet us at Setback Podcast. It's going to be awesome. Listen to us on a bunch of things. We should be out on Spotify now, iHeartRadio, stuff like that, live streaming. Streaming. So you can get our show that way. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all the good places where you get all your good podcasts. We're going to go. We got to get out of here. We're going to go. Join our Discord. You can find information on the Patreon site. Once again, that's patreon.com/setback podcast. Everything is happening. We're all doing this. DK Rise is checking us out from the chat room. Thanks, bud. Appreciate it. Check us out. All right. Till next time, catchphrase. Why do you say it dumb every time, Jared? We're going to try that one more time. You got to say it right. Catchphrase. Idiot.
Catchphrase.
Yeah, and we're out.
Sorry about that, folks.
Yeah, that's a super long. That's probably our longest.